The old man built. The old man built. The old man built. The old man built. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality was stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds.
Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Nathan, otherwise known as Old Man Builds. Guys, what's going on? Man, we got all kinds of cool stuff going on today. We're talking to Liz. Joe and I had a great conversation with her. We talked a little bit of under the pyramid, what the structures is and things like that. So that's really cool. Hey guys, if you haven't already, check out Joe and help him go mining. Also, my podcast channel, where I broadcast most of these conversations we have on there. Really cool stuff on there, man. Collections of everything. What's going on, man? All right, man. We're rocking today. So, guys, when we're done with the interview and stuff, I have a couple things going on with the coils. We sold our first coil. We're also building circuits, PNP. Man, they are beyond awesome. I got the Hitman coil over my shoulder right here to my left, the pink one in black. I think that's just awesome. Anyway, let's go ahead and let me load this thing up real quick and we'll be good to go.
Well, hey, Liz. Good to have you back.
Nice to be back. Thank you for having me.
So you were the first one to break the what's under the pyramid story. Congratulations on that. Tell us what you found out about it.
Well, I was the first YouTuber to break the story. The person who actually broke the story was my friend Trevor Grassi, and he announced it on Facebook, and that's how I got wind of it, because I was waiting and waiting for the news to come out because I knew it was coming out. And he got in and he found the information out because he actually went to the conference. And so he put the information on Facebook. And so I got it and immediately it came out. I did my episode and the day after, I think, was the day I spoke to you guys. Was that right?
Yeah. Because you had mentioned it last time we talked, but we didn't understand it.
Yeah, we didn't hear anything about it. We had no idea the magnitude of what was going to become of it just from that little conversation that we had.
Yeah, and then like 3 days later, one of the big YouTube channels got the information and they ran with it. And then they got interviewed by people like Piers Morgan and it just blew up from there. So it's been very good for my channel, which I'm very pleased about. People have been subscribing and taking an interest in my other stuff, which makes me extremely happy. So, it's great. And despite all the negative kind of feedback that the team have been getting, it's still overall a very positive thing, I think, for the team and for the world, really. And the only thing that people keep saying is, oh, it can't be possible. This technology cannot be possible. And so they've already proven that it works. And it's not using the traditional SAR technology. It's using the Doppler effect with the SAR technology, which means that they can go to deeper depths. That sounds good, doesn't it? And they tested it on an Italian research institute that was deep underground, about the same level. And they got the sort of information that you would expect because they have the details of the place. And so and from my mind, they've proved that it works. And they also did it to the Osiris shaft. And that was really interesting because we know a lot about the Osiris shaft, which is a shaft between the pyramid of that they had been scanning and the Sphinx. So it's between, oh, my brain's gone.
Is it the red one?
No, it's the middle one. So I keep thinking Menkaure, but it's not Menkaure because I spent a lot of time with Menkaure. So there's Khafre is the middle one, and there's Khufu is the Great Pyramid. So yeah, sorry, brain went. And so it's between the Khafre pyramid and the Sphinx. And you look over, when you're down the walkway, you look over the side, and they've got this mesh, and you can see this deep shaft, and that's not even 10% of it. But there's this door, and you can, when there's tours, they pay like $2,000 US to go into this place.
Oh, wow.
Or so I was told by one of the locals. So I'm not sure how accurate that is. But occasionally, because I loitered on the plateau, I really loitered. So I saw the odd group heading in there. And so they queue at this gate, and then someone comes along and unlocks the gate. And in they go, and they like disappear for 2 hours. And there are lots of videos from people who've been in there. You go down this really rickety ladder down to one level, and basically, to put it into a nutshell, there's like 3 shafts that you have to go down to get to the bottom level where there's all this water and what is supposed to be a sarcophagus of Osiris. It's all smashed up. But from these scans, it seems that there is another shaft that they haven't discovered that goes down even further from that. But the scans showed exactly what we knew existed because, people go in there all the time. But it showed more than what we knew existed. So that's just, to me, that's just incredibly exciting to see all this, the justification. They justify what they've done by showing that the scans are working.
It goes right in line with all of the frustrations that we have in our community with the cutting edge technologies and stuff like that. Because you always have this group of people who, no matter what you show them, no matter how you explain it, no matter how much sense it makes, they're going to sit there and tell you why not. And, it seems so confusing to me how here you're describing this tour that you could pay to take. And it's something that they know tangibly exists right in that area. From exactly probably the same time period and everything. But God forbid it should be underneath the pyramids in some other kind of form, but the same type of thing. And then you could show them the data from up above the one and up above the other, and they line up exactly. Then you have the ability to go into and see what it is in the other one, and they still throw their hands up and say, no, can't be.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very frustrating and confusing.
Yeah. Some people say, oh, well, maybe the technology works, but maybe these are natural formations.
I think what's important is they did
makes me laugh.
Yeah, they did the shaft, and they also did the known building so that they could verify what they did versus what it showed so that it gives them credence. You know what I mean? As far as what they're showing. But there's no such thing as a natural structure that looks like that.
Well, the argument goes along these lines that the plateau is full of these areas of water, and sometimes there are like cracks in the stone, and the water comes up and creates these, what looks like a shaft. But it's such a stretch that...
Yeah, right. And that's just so happens to be exactly where the pyramid is, and then geometrically spaced out underneath its footprint. and because coincidence.
And then, of course, there's people who are still clinging to the concept that the dynastic Egyptians built the structures. So they're saying, well, if the structure does exist underneath the pyramid, then the dynastic Egyptians came along and built a pyramid on top of it because it was obviously special. They found it and they thought, oh, this looks nice. We'll build a pyramid on it. Which, I mean, from my perspective, I believe that the dynastic Egyptians did some amazing stuff, but I think that they found these structures and they put a casing stone of extreme beauty on them. So they made them gleam in the sun. And the amount of work just to put those casing stones on is just a gigantic job, even in its own right, without having to say, oh, yes, and they also built the underlying structure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just seems like one of those things of convenience where, I hate to say it, but Egypt as it is as a country today, and the rights that they have over their land and therefore the pyramids, if it were to be proven that they're not really even necessarily Egyptian in origin and they're just the ones that came along, what becomes of their rights to the pyramids at that point, and what is it that they're protecting? Because that's their national identity, realistically. Isn't what they're doing today, it's what they once were.
I don't think that would change anything, because it would just mean that it's older Egyptians that did it, if you get my drift. Let's for argument's sake say that these are people who originated in Atlantis. They moved to Egypt, they became Egyptians, and they did all this work, which is kind of my belief system. They're still Egyptian. They will have lived their lives. They would have had children in Egypt. They would have built monuments in Egypt. They would have just done it an awful lot longer ago than the more modern Egyptians.
Well, right. I mean, I guess the way that I was framing it was a little bit different perspective, but same scenario. It's sort of like saying, that a Native American, teepee is, that's an American thing in terms of America, because, well, we're here now and we're the ones that live and we built on top of it. And they used to be here, but, we might have killed off all those people, and
luckily you haven't, but yeah.
Well, you see where I'm going with that. The idea is that, just because, it doesn't mean that they're native to, because that's how the evolution of Earth has been with human beings. It's been command and conquer and take over, and what was yours is now mine. So I guess that's sort of the perspective I was framing it from, but I get what you're saying too. And obviously you would have a much greater baseline of knowledge as to, the relationship between the native Egyptians of old and then what we associate as being the dynastic Egyptians and current.
I think they do see, they don't like it when people say that it wasn't the dynastic Egyptians, because as you say, it opens up, well, who was it that did it? So I do understand, and they really get upset when people start saying, oh, it's aliens, because, I mean, who wouldn't get upset with that? But if it's another 15,000 years older than they say, why should that upset them so much? Why did Zahi Hawass get so upset when Graham Hancock mentioned to him about Göbekli Tepe being 12,500 years old? That really upset him. I mean, this is a long time ago. He's come to grips with it now. And don't get me wrong, I'm actually a bit of a fan of Zahi Hawass, but I think he's up to good things, not bad things, even though the end result is not what we want. We want to get this information. We want to know about it. But I personally think he's protecting the world from some of this more dangerous technology. But that's just my personal opinion.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, isn't it? If they tell you how old it is, they tell you that there was a civilization a lot longer ago who had this technology, then they start releasing what's actually hidden from us, then it starts to get scary, because everybody's putting two and two together now, even though they haven't showed it all. But if they showed everything that they had,
Mm,
then it'd be game over. We'd already know the technology right now.
yeah. And I think that if the technology that is still there gets into the hands of, say, the military, it's not going to be a good thing for humanity. It really isn't.
Well, I think it's important to point out in this because, we always allude to the fact that the hidden technologies of, that we're talking about now is some kind of closely guarded secret as far as the tech that we use now. But I don't know how inherently true that is in today's day and age in 2025, because realistically, like a big part of what you were talking about the last time, in Atlantis and that technology was the resonance systems and how there was communication and all these things through this resonance system. And the fact is, well, what do you think Wi-Fi is? What do you think wireless internet is? What do you think cellular technology is? What do you think all that is? It might be a way different means to reach the end, but at the end of the day, it's all the same exact thing. It's waves, traveling through, being transmitted and being picked up, and that's the information. So, is it being suppressed? Yeah, I think aspects of it are, but is it totally suppressed to the point where it's not understandable or present with the amount of technology we have? I mean, I failed to see that. I think that it's very similar to a lot of the things that you were describing.
It's just coming out at a moderate pace.
Yeah, they didn't like when Bedini was telling them, because he builds the amplifiers and stuff, right? So he was telling them in resonance there's packets. So as they come across like this, they go out and they come back down. Inside that packet's where you hide the information. So if we're resonating crystals and hiding information in there, it's going to stay in there forever until you crack that code of that crystal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was just, they tried to stop that a long time ago, man. Was it back in the 80s, 90s?
Well, wait until they break open with the fact that information is stored in water, and you could read any water like it's a total history of everything that it's ever been in contact with. That falls right along the same exact lines, and that's just to do with the molecular structure of it.
Yeah, I can't tell you how fast my numbers dropped on my channel when I started energizing the water. Oh, yeah, it was getting, 1,500 to 2,000 views, and then all of a sudden, boom, down to 500 views on each one, because they knew I had it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a completely different energy. Works completely different than anything that they have. Well, not the government. The government has it. I'll tell you right now. The American government has it. That's how they knew to look for it. But yeah, because it builds out. And I'll tell you this, I was talking about force fields earlier. It literally builds out in a field that is like static, and then it builds out in this field, and then there's geometry all in it. And that's the part they don't like. Because once you know how geometry works in a crystal, you know that you're communicating with the crystal because it's radiant, which is the lower form of radiation, which then they know, oh, wow, we're in trouble now because they figured it out. And they shut that down quick. I've never recovered on my channel from it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, yeah, right. Even on the lives, we were getting upwards of 750 to 1,000 plus. Like we were on that way up, and right as soon as you started playing with the water and the mud and the water line, man, that's been a tough blow. But
well, it's kind of hard to deny when I think a 10-foot by 10-foot pond, and I could just stick light bulbs in it anywhere and they light up, kind of like Tesla put them in the ground.
Yeah.
If I would have hit the water table, I could just go around anywhere I wanted to and put light bulbs in the ground. I recreated this Colorado experiment where I could do it. And they didn't like that at all because they knew that's ancient technology.
Maybe you have to take them on a much slower journey in order to get people to kind of cope with it. If Or do you think it's maybe the algorithm that's decided it doesn't like you? Or...
Yeah, I think it's the algorithm.
Yeah. It's all right, though. You know what? There's people out there replicating it, so it'll go on forever. They just won't be able to stop it. They just don't realize what it does yet.
Well,
Yeah.
persevere, because, I mean, you can prove what you're doing. And it's just a matter of time before people start to say, this guy knows his stuff.
Yeah. Oh, we were talking about, hold on, talking about the flowers and stuff. And there was other people that went out there, did this, and they found the same protein spike that would show up in flowers when you put this in the water and you resonate the water. They'd show a different protein spike. The cool thing about that is when they researched the old flowers, when they take out the tombs and stuff in Egypt, they have a different protein spike than they do nowadays, which means they had this energy back then. And Joe and I both, our agreement was for the pyramid, and it changes how things work in that plant. So we were looking at the, what was it, the blue something, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the one you always see on
Blue
Egyptian.
lotus.
There you go, Blue Lotus. It has a protein spike in it when they tested it, the old one, and the new one doesn't have it. And I can prove why. So
Interesting.
That is interesting.
It is, yeah.
it changes all the plants that are near it in the water. So you're going to find a lot of these old plants have a protein spike that we don't have now, and it changed all of them. That's why when you went to look for your flower and we're talking about it, there's probably many different ones that went into that same result because they're in the same pool of water. It's that they figured out the technology, and then the plants themselves were given what they needed to produce it. So it's probably a hybrid you're looking for.
You know,
Yeah, well, every time I think I'm getting close, I'm not.
you know, the plant you described, my mind keeps on going back to like some kind of succulent.
Well, it
Yeah.
had that feel of a succulent. It was a thick leaf, but I'm actually looking at ones that are not succulents at the moment, that have the knotted kind of roots. The root system is kind of knotted and clumsy looking, and I've been finding a few, but they just don't smell right to me yet. So I think, I think I get so far down one track, and then I feel like I'm sort of kind of starting again.
Well, it would be interesting to know that if what Nathan is describing is a critical aspect of the growth process of whatever specific type of plant, to actually have the properties that would be something recognizable to you,
Yes,
which is a whole nother layer of it.
Would you by any chance know that if higher altitudes creates the same impact?
Well,
Because of the way the technology works, it works in scalar. So yes, it would. It would change what altitudes plants can be planted at. So like, for instance, younger dryas plants only comes up there, and then they would now show up in everyday life if this energy was run by them.
Right. Because one of the aspects of what I'm looking for in this plant is that it was conditioned to be able to grow at high altitudes in order to create the correct efficacy. Now, that could be the protein spike that you speak of. If altitude would affect the plant in such a way,
It would.
That would actually be a positive negative. I can't speak. A positive energy bias by going higher in altitude.
And there might not have been another way of achieving that at the time. And so that was the only way that seemed feasible. But then later on, when technology developed, they found other ways. So, because I just couldn't understand why we had to go up a mountain with a plant and spend so long there trying to get one to grow. And then once it grew, we had to go up another level to get it until we got it really high up. And
weird
dreams.
What this does is it opens up say like a plant would say veins or something like that, it
Mhm.
opens them up so it flows faster, and then it resonates them so that all the frequency goes into them, and then they're able to hit an optimal frequency that just grows them 3 times as fast is what will happen. And then they'll take on offshoots from everything around it. So like how we take roses now and we put
Yeah.
2 colors next to each other, and then one in the middle gets to build with both colors. It's kind of the same thing, but this is taking them all into account. You mean all around it. So it definitely has to do with location and where they're at. So that
Yeah.
big pool of water in the one you were talking about in Egypt, with the big shafts and everything, that would be perfect for this energy, because then it's compressed. And once it's compressed in anything, man, it does push out everywhere.
Well, that's also consistent with the Osirian, not to be confused with the Osiris shaft, which the Osiris shaft is on the plateau. The Osirian is in Abydos, but it goes down 5 stories, and it's built in sand, not on a base of rock. So we've got all these megaliths making up this structure in sand, and the sand is sand that is soaked. It's there's a proper word for it, where it's infused with water.
Saturated.
And so that's
Like
the word, yeah. And so it's essentially stone floating around in sand, full of water, and the water somehow comes into the structure, and there's the piezoelectric energy from these massive megaliths on top of each other, and you'd think it would sink because it's on sand. And when you walk in, the energy, you just wouldn't believe how it feels. It feels like taking a really fresh breath when you're, let's say, at the beach, and you've got a very gentle wind and it hits you, and it really feels fresh. It feels energized. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
And it's just such a strong energy.
let me just tell you one of the secrets of this. The quartz in the sand, that's what lit up the pond.
Of course. Of course.
That's what it is. It's that energy that's in it. It's that quartz. It's just like you said it was there. Said it was in the crystals and things like that. That's where I found it. Right there in that quartz. And it works way better when you don't have minerals in there like that. Doesn't work all that well. But as soon as you put DG in there or quartz ground up, anything like that, oh man, it sets this stuff off. That's where it likes to be.
And that's why these really ancient structures are built from things like rose granite, because when you look at a piece of rose granite, it is full of quartz. It's like packed with it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, that's why we're researching this stuff, so that we can figure it all out, because the answer's always been in that. As soon as they took down the walls of Jericho, we knew that there was frequency vibration going on. We knew it had to do with the minerals in the earth. All those things came into play. And then the sound was the movement, and the ram's horns, stuff like that. It moved that resonance right through the air.
yeah,
And
they had to go around 6 times though to build up that resonance.
oh yeah,
It was 6, wasn't it?
they had to saturate the area. They had to ionize it. Yeah, exactly. We were seeing anti-gravity stuff that works the same way. We were talking about Hutchinson. He had to ionize the whole room in order to get it to work, which was completely understandable. But once you understand that, you figured out what was going on. The frequency, vibration, all of it mattered. And then sound to move it. So when I tell you inside of plasma, there's those lines we were talking about earlier, and they're frequencies, right? Where you could take sound like this, a speaker on the top and a speaker on the bottom, and you can turn that plasma. Just like this. Just by turning the speaker, you move the plasma. And you can move it left, right, wherever. But then if you take a speaker to it, you can turn it on, and that plasma will jump this way or jump this way and get right out of the way of it. So
Interesting.
yeah, it's all in those frequencies and vibrations and stuff, and the movement that
Mhm.
that sound makes. So
Mm.
You know, and these solid state type things that like permanent magnets and like piezoelectrics, anything that has a permanent electromagnetic property to it is it, extremely important to understanding the connection between energy and matter and how the systems ultimately play a role with one another. You know, and that's really it's sort of like how plasma bridges the gap between energy and matter in that regard. So do permanent magnets and crystals as well, piezoelectric crystals as well.
Mm.
You know, and that's why it's so ubiquitous, and it's just present everywhere you look through the ancient world too for these uses, like you're describing.
mhm.
You know, to backtrack just a little bit, there was, you know, we were talking before kind of about the naysayers of all this,
Hmm.
and the sad thing is that it's so much further deep rooted than we ever give any credit to whatsoever. You look at our education systems, and it doesn't matter where you're from. It's, you know, kind of taught the same way. You don't learn, you know, physics, biology, chemistry, and geometry all in the same breath of air as any sort of related science.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know, you don't learn history as it's related to science, and you don't use mathematics as it's related to science and history. You know, they're all separated and left onto their own devices for their own specific practical application without ever trying to bridge the gap between them. You realize very, very quickly that all of these things are together, because realistically, if you start looking at it as a more holistic approach to knowledge, you start making these realizations that what we're saying is absolutely the case.
Yeah. Well, in olden times, it was called alchemy, and it was
Yeah.
all those things together.
Exactly.
And of course, the religious fraternity considered it evil and considered it to be magic. And so they were persecuted. And it was just science.
Well, what they really considered it was stuff that they already knew to be true that they didn't need other people playing with.
Yeah.
Probably, yes.
They did a lot of that with the church. A lot
Yeah.
of that.
It's always been a game of gatekeeping.
Yeah, as far back as you look, it certainly has. Even in ancient Egypt, it was the priests who kept the knowledge. They were the ones that were the doctors. They were the ones that were the scientists. It wasn't something that anybody could just do. So they definitely kept the knowledge quite within their own group.
Yeah, right. Like almost like you use it but don't understand it.
Oh, I think a lot of them really did understand it, and some of them, other things that maybe they didn't understand it. Maybe it was residual technology that they managed to use but didn't understand. But
Oh, I'm
it was
talking about
still-
outside the gatekeeper
Oh,
situation.
right.
When you're
Yes.
talking about, you know, just people about that are exposed to it, see it, or maybe use it for a specific function. It's like use it, but you know, we're not getting into the whys of it.
Well, it's just like today. I mean, I have no idea how my cell phone works, so I just use it, and I think that was like that in the past as well.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, the
Just-
funny thing about that is that probably wouldn't have been the most difficult question to answer like 20 or 25 years ago.
Mhm.
But you ask that same exact question today, and it does become quite difficult. Like, who knows? There's so much going on, so much capability, and it's all right here. But remember, we can't go back to the moon.
Funny that.
If we were there in the first place.
I think we did get there. It's just I'd like to know the real reason that we can't return.
Wouldn't that be fascinating?
Yeah.
I think we all want to know that. Or the real reason they don't want to bring today's camera to the moon. Because they know they can't hide it anymore. Whatever it is, they just can't hide it.
Right. The resolutions are too good and everything like that.
Yeah. But it's going to come out. It'll all come out eventually.
I think that's what the slow bleed has been. I think that's what the trickling of information, and now they say shocking things, and it's sadly it's like when you've been lied to for so long that even if they tell the truth, you tend not to believe it. They went on recently with another one of these congressional Q&A things, and we're talking about species of alien life and things like that. And I'm sitting there listening to it like this should be blowing my mind, and I'm sitting there going like, I don't know if I believe you.
Yeah.
And it's and then it's like mission accomplished at that
I think
point.
they flood the mainstream with a lot of this stuff that's just garbage.
Yeah.
And keeps us looking for the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's a case of look over here.
That's it.
Let's distract everyone with something completely unimportant.
But isn't that the world? But look how extreme that is in the world that we're living in today. It really is that bad, where like they could say something shocking like that, and nobody pays any mind to it. And even the people that want to believe that, like they're highly skeptical. And that's when you know that the psyop is work. Because nobody knows what's going on. So.
And we don't actually, it's very hard for us to tell what's AI now and what's real.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I did an episode on the schist disc, which is this tri-lobed piece of schist that it's absolutely beautiful. It curves up like this, and there's 3 parts, and it's just such perfect proportions. And they found it in a tomb that's 4,500 years old, and it's one piece of schist, and it's perfect. And so I'm getting comments on my channel like, oh, that's just AI, that's not real. I'm thinking, this is real. I'm looking at it right now.
We've known about this since before AI too, and plenty of people have seen it.
But it's the mentality. People are now writing things off and saying, no, that's just AI.
Well, I mean, AI really has gotten that good. I mean, it was just like a week or two ago. I just ran a little experiment with Nathan, and we ended up showing it on the show where I took a couple of pictures of a Tesla book. I gave it to AI. I said, hey, listen, summarize this, make me a monologue, make it entertaining and have like a little bit of personality to it and whatnot. Then both Nathan and I, we had trained AI voice models to be able to do text to speech. So then I had the text to speech read the, personality, driven like monologue, and we played it. And out of all the viewers, not one of them called it out as being AI.
Really?
Not one.
I did it once, and the version of me that was reading creeped me out so much. I just felt so creepy. I didn't do it again. So, did you feel creeped out by it?
No, I didn't.
No, because I have to be real. It was barely indistinguishable from me reading. Now, it didn't sound like me talking naturally as much, but I guess kind of it did to a degree. But
not as much personality.
Right. If I was like actually just reading text, it sounded absolutely like me, just less any kind of hold up that I might have in reading tiny little text. So
maybe I should try it again, because I did it a while ago when it was fairly new technology, so it might not be quite so creepy now.
Yeah, no, it's good. We'll show you another time, but it's definitely worth doing.
Oh yeah, well, it helps when you have to look at patents and stuff like that and read them. Much rather have an AI voice read them, because that whole day would be miserable for me. I don't like reading, and I don't like the word conjugations they put together. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's a faster way to say it.
Yeah.
So, but you got to read it the way they read it.
Oh, but AI is wonderful. I don't know why so many people don't like it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, there's one thing I won't do. They offered my channel to train AI on how like electricity is working in AC and DC systems and stuff like that, and I tested coils, all that stuff. They wanted me to do it, and they were going to pay me a good amount of money, but it's like, I don't know that I want to train AI how to do what I'm doing, in any way, because it said in there, you can't file any patents on what you do. You cannot use it for anything else. And there's a chance that the person who buys this may come back to you and say that you can't talk about it. And I said, with that being said, no, thank you. I discovered it, so I should be able to say what I want.
Yeah, right. At that point, that check better be real fat, like real fat.
No, well, it wasn't a Brinks truck, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe like 1 year's salary or something like that, but
yeah, no, still not enough. If you're not able to comfortably retire and then turn to YouTube to talk about anything else, while not having to worry about a damn other thing, then it ain't worth it.
Oh yeah, well, what they want the stuff in the future too. So anything you do in the future, they want to get a little piece of that too. And it's like, no, I don't think so. We got some weird things going on, man. we got to keep that out to the
you're
public.
not selling out.
Yeah, well, not me. I give everything away for free.
So let me ask you, Liz,
I just show
was there anything like AI in Atlantis?
Not quite. Not like a person, but I mean, when you read the the myths, the Greek myths of or automatons, like little robots and things, that's the nearest thing. So that they were still creating like creatures that were artificial, but not the sort of thing that we're getting to at the moment. So
it sounds like everything that was technology driven back then was a more mechanical version or actual version of the things that we have now, because it feels like everything we have now is very virtual.
Well, actually a bit of both, because if you think about the computers just being a piece of crystal, this doesn't get much more simple than that, really. And yet with other things, it was more complicated. The technology was so different, so totally different, that it's really very difficult to compare that to now.
Very interesting.
Yeah, well, if you're stacking crystal and layer by layer by layer, it's basically a computer, yeah. Mm. You're just looking at reaction times of ones and zeros. That's all it is.
Well, there's another thing that they try to suppress too, or add woo to, is the power of crystals generally. Yet they're using all these same types of crystals to run all the technology that does all the stuff that we don't understand. But nobody say that. Please don't say that.
I know. And it goes as far back as crystal radios. I mean, how can they be so negative about crystals when they've been using them for so long?
Yeah. All these hippies and their crystals and their woo-woo and their nonsense. It's like, and there they are in labs growing them in their most pure form to be able to be utilized for purposes that we, even here on this channel where we discuss these things. Like, I mean, do you know how complex microcomputer processors and chips work? Because frankly, I don't. Like, I mean, I get the general concept behind it, but like the actuality and making that function, like I can't pull into a parts bin and figure that out personally.
If you buy a really, really good quality watch, what's in there?
Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, right. But funny enough, right? Like I was talking about the mechanical sense of things with Atlantis, the best watches out there are all mechanical.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. The best of the best. Yeah. So it goes full circle, I suppose.
And when you think about things like the Antikythera mechanism, I'm sure I didn't say that correctly.
Antikythera mechanism. You just have a nicer voice and a beautiful accent as opposed to my pronunciation.
Thank you. But when you think about something like that, it's just the tip of the iceberg, just the only thing that survived when you think about what else would have been around.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, I gotta ask you this. So we were looking into stuff, and everything that I see in Egypt, it's mirrored. So you don't understand what is written there, but then you put a mirror to it and get the reflection back on itself, and you find out what technology you have. Have you noticed any of that?
No, I have noticed some very interesting hieroglyphs, but I haven't noticed anything that needed a mirror.
Do you have an example of that to show, Nathan?
Oh, the easiest one is the Akhum, the Egyptian cross.
The Ankh? Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, if you sit there in the center divider line and put a mirror in it, it shows you the same thing. But remember, the other side of the mirror, it has to have a mirror as well. So that has to be there as well. And what it basically tells you is there's two toroids based with a divider layer, and it has two funnels, one in the top, one in the bottom. And it's exactly what it thinks in the center of our Earth, in our magnetic field. And they described it on one of the Ankhs very clearly, with the crystals and stuff in it. And what Joe and I were looking into is the crystals in the radiation portion of it. It works in that same way where you compress the field, it builds out the field, and then it has the field around the Earth. And that's what we're looking into. So it made perfect sense, but you had to have a mirror to see it. There's also, if you build a geometry coil and you're doing that based on I can't even think of the word, but those beautiful mandalas that you see everywhere, you could build geometry coils based on that actually put out the exact frequencies that you can find, and they tell you everything in there. But you have to mirror it 180 degrees out of phase when you do each coil in there to resonate them.
Have you had a look at any of those very ancient Indian temples and the structures that look like resonance pictures of resonance? So there's a pillar and it has all kinds of different
yeah. So you turn it on its side, it'll look perfectly.
Yeah,
it looks like a waveform.
Let's look at one of those, because I reckon there's knowledge in there. I think there's information there.
Oh, there's information all over them. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that resonance sign and the symbols of it is in just about every building I've ever seen a hieroglyph in, and include churches. They show them, and sometimes they don't show you like a wire winding. They're going to show you the field, and based on where you know the energy is, you know where the field is. But the craziest part about it is you see it in 2D. It builds out in physical form as a field in 3 dimensions. So you could just take, Pythagoras and how he saw geometry and apply it to this, and it works perfect. You don't have to do any other complex algebra. You just need how he did geometry, and you're just fine.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Hey, Liz, I'll tell you something fascinating that I saw someone that is a friend of the channel do that immediately brought me back to when we were talking the first time, and it actually has to do with the Ankh. I was watching his channel, and he had kind of like a souvenir brass Ankh.
Okay.
And it was about maybe a foot long or whatever, end to end. And he was holding it by the bottom cross end, and he just kept on pinging the top. And every time he pinged it, it made a very specific, sound to it. Very, very specific. And it was no matter how hard he hit it, no matter where he hit it, it made that sound. He turned it around and held it by the other end and did it, and it was thud, thud, thud.
Wow.
So I found that to be interesting because it's the crossbar in the middle that actually breaks and holds the resonance in the out at the top ring portion. So when you were saying it was like a key, like a resonant key, It absolutely is, and that's why a lot of times too you'll see them holding it by the bottom part, because it would actually function just like that.
Mm.
Because you could damper that total bottom and still get the resonant ring out of it
Yeah.
without it being dampened. Yeah, it was just something fascinating. Made me think about when you had talked about that, and I saw it with my own two eyes, and I was like, "Do that again? Do that again? Flip it around now." Okay, and yeah, it was really fascinating.
Yeah, I think I've got a brass one here. I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah,
Yeah, there you go.
Hmm.
Yeah, we were talking about crystals last time, and you said everything was in the crystals and the energy and the vibrations and stuff.
Mm.
And then we laid out the geometrical pattern of the oxygen in the crystals. And wouldn't you know it, it showed every single thing, from a hexagon to a tetrahedron. Everything that's in there is in that crystal lattice structure based on where the oxygen molecule is. Every last one of them. So if you're resonating the oxygen in there, you've turned that crystal on.
well, you're talking about in silica dioxide, so like in quartz.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and it actually makes a shape. That's the funny thing. All those crystals have a funny way. Some of them are squares. You know what I mean? Some of them build out in triangles.
Well, you should do that same thing, and maybe we'll do it together. Take a look at the sapphire also, because that's aluminum oxide. So that's an oxide crystal also. So it'd be interesting to see what the pattern on that is.
I just think it's funny, Liz. That I keep mentioning it to Joe. Everything you said is coming true. We're finding every last one of them, and we're tracking them down.
Thanks. I'm really pleased about that. Makes me very happy.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get our heads around the floating lights that would, crumble to the floor if you touched them or went too close. There's certain aspects of that seem so tangible and explainable with the experimental results that we've all seen, but then there's parts of it too that aren't. It's sort of like, okay, so what is illuminating? Like that, I think, is the big wild card itself. Is it plasma? Is it what's illuminating?
Well, check this out. I was doing tests on my Tesla coils. So if you're standing next to this thing, if it's tuned this way, it'll turn on the light bulb. But if you're not standing next to it, the light bulb would be off at all times. So if you're heading down a hallway that has resonance in it, then your body capacitance will turn on the light bulb as you go by. And then as soon as you leave that area, it goes off. Yeah. That was part of the technology you were talking about.
That's exactly it. Yeah. But I still don't understand why it fell. It was hanging there like nothing was holding it up. And yet if you dared to touch it, it somehow couldn't cope with it. That doesn't make sense. But
well, that was the part of it that I was stuck on. It wasn't so much the turning on or how it would be powered without being attached to anything part. It was that aspect of it where it's like a floating entity, so to speak, but then you touch it and that's it.
Well, it's because you're absorbing the energy. You're pulling it right out of whatever frequency it was in by absorbing the energy. It's like, I don't know if you guys have heard the story about the light bulb in Egypt was on forever, and then some guy went in and touched it, and then it would never turn on again.
In Egypt?
Yeah. I'll find the story and send it to you.
Yeah, I'd really be interested in that.
Yeah, it's an amazing story, but it all has to do with how much energy it built up in it. And then as soon as he touched it, his body became the capacitor. So he pulled it right to him, took all of the energy out of it. But then we did tests on the cold energy, and we found out it did the same thing. As soon as you touched it, it pulled it right out. So it had to do with that rod down the center of the Tesla coil. The same thing we said was in Egypt. That same technology works the same way. It's opposite of the way circuits work today.
Yep. Nathan had did that with the center coil of the center wire, rather, like he said, into mud, and he had a fluorescent light right in contact with the mud. It was lit up just as it would be in a hanging from your ceiling, and then he takes his hand and puts it in the mud, and it goes out.
Ah,
Crazy, right?
yeah,
My body was taking it. I was stealing its energy
yeah.
because it moves towards a heat source. It's cold in its nature and the way it builds, and then because you're the heat source, you draw it to you, so you take that energy from it.
Is it the heat though? Are you sure that it's because it's a heat source? Could it be some other kind of electrical energy of our body that does it? And heat just happens to be a byproduct.
Oh, very well could
Well,
be.
what you just said is absolutely correct, right? The heat's the byproduct of your own energy system, and the energy flows and everything like that. So,
Yeah, I was watching on one channel. They had these glasses. They could see your aurora. I forget. It was like a purple glasses or something like that, or I don't know the color.
I know what they are.
But you could see the field around
channel's
you.
called the House of Tarot or something like that.
Yeah, House of Tarot has the real ones for sale now, as we speak.
They seem to be the only ones making the real ones.
Diethyl, no, that's dimethylene or something like that. I forget. They're blue, and I always confuse it with something else.
They're blue.
They're blue.
The glass, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'll just tell you a little story real quick. UFO story.
Okay.
Blue glass. They got rid of the exact way they made blue glass because it was able to see fields like that. So if you had a cold energy field, you'd be able to find it. You'll see it. So if they really do have them, man, I might be going over there to buy some glasses.
Yeah, I could send you the link. I have the link.
Oh, that would be awesome.
And they're very, very hard to get because they stopped making them like years and years ago. In fact, it was outlawed for a while, but he was able to get around it because it's not a traditional lens that's colored. It's actually liquid sandwiched in between two pieces of glass.
Oh, Ken Wheeler does that in order to show magnetic fields.
Yeah, it's a different material, but yeah, that's a similar concept to how we got it entrapped.
Sorry, Liz, we're boring you. We got all this technology stuff we work on.
No, it's fascinating. I'm really interested in all of that. So don't think it's makes me bored. It doesn't.
Well, speaking of blue, I have the blue crystal I found.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yep. I finally remembered to take it out of my truck.
There you go.
Where did you find it?
Found it at the mine that I went to, and I've been mining for quartz lately, and found some nice pieces of quartz and stumbled upon this. Like this was just like laying in with a whole bunch of other rocks that were all busted up and stuff. It just caught my eye because it didn't look the same as everything else, and then I realized what it was. It's kyanite. So that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
So there's just so you know, Joe was out on a live show out there, letting us watch him hit the rocks and stuff and pull it right out of the side of a mountain or a hill, however you want to say it. Oh, it was awesome. And he'd go like this and show you, man, and he's got this piece of quartz. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's right here. The big one that I found. Oh, bigger, whatever.
Nice.
Yeah. Very pretty.
Yeah.
Piezoelectric.
I'm just in the process of going through all my crystals and working out which ones I want to keep and which ones I want to let my life be more simple from.
Sizing down.
Yeah. It's necessary occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's some crystals that just have me fascinated and I have no idea why. And I can't part with them. So
Is it maybe that you've seen him before?
say again?
Maybe that you've seen him before in the past life regression?
Yeah. I'll just grab a couple and
Yeah,
Yeah, go for it.
please. I love opening up cans of worms. It's the best part of this.
So as you know from last time we spoke, I've got a thing about obsidian.
Mhm.
So I've got
Mm.
this amazing.
Oh, that's
Oh, look at
beautiful.
that.
Mm.
Yeah, somebody napped that. Wow,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
So I'm assuming it's a modern version, but it's still very interesting because this is what they used for knives and things. So
Yeah, it's very intricate. It's a lot of work that goes into something like that.
and then I've got some weird little ones which intrigue me. So when you said kyanite?
Kyanite, yeah.
Yeah. So here's my bit of kyanite.
Oh, very nice.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Nice.
And then I've got a bit of dolomite, which I think is quite interesting.
Oh, nice. Actually, believe it or not, dolomite's what these quartz crystals I'm mining
Yeah.
are forming out of.
Ah.
Yeah.
Now here's a weird one, an oxalite. Look at the structure of that.
Oh, yeah, that is neat.
That looks like selenite a little bit. It's like striped across.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
striped. Yeah. Now I have a yellow one as well, but I don't know what I've done with it, which I can't remember what it was. And this one is weatherlight. Anyway, sorry, I'm boring you now with my.
No,
my
you're
rock.
not bored. We love talking crystals. So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. That's
So, yeah,
that's definitely always going to have our attention, at least mine.
I'm cutting down on my crystals, but those are staying. So,
Oh, very cool. Well, I mean, you're pretty close to some of the best crystal formations in the world because, right in Australia, I know that they're crazy, like the most diverse, crystal specimens on Earth right out of Australia. I don't know how far Australia really is from New Zealand. I assume it's not super far. Definitely close to the United States.
3.5 hour flight to the nearest city. So it's a reasonable distance, but not too bad. But it's a long, long way to get to Perth. And Perth is where most of the mines are.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, like the United States, I mean, like everything here is so far. So like Nathan and I, we live in the same country. And if I went to, and left my house right now, by the time I drove to an airport, got in an airplane, flew to his area and then got to his house, it'd be sometime midday tomorrow.
Right. How long would the flight be once you take off?
It'd be at least 8 hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Both coasts were opposite coasts, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One New York, one California. So
wow.
Yep.
I think Canada's closer to me than Joe is.
Oh yeah. Well, I could tell you that I'm closer to Canada than I am to Nathan. That's for damn sure.
That's for sure, yeah.
That's for damn sure.
And I'm as far away from both of you as I could possibly be.
Absolutely true. Not only are you on the other side of the planet, you're also on the other side of the planet.
Yeah, underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah. You're a 2 right or 2 left proposition to get to, depending on which way you go.
Yeah, people really need to want to come to New Zealand to come here. But people do want to come to New Zealand, so people come here. So it's
that's cool stuff everywhere. We always see everybody out in California. Everybody comes here. They just want to see the beach for one time or something they saw on TV, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, Venice Beach in particular is definitely worth seeing. It's an eye-opener.
Awesome.
All right,
Yeah,
so
I've got an American friend staying with me at the moment. He's from Austin, Texas. So he's
awesome.
loving it here in New Zealand.
Very nice.
Mm.
Yeah, I lived in Texas for a bit. Texas is I really liked it there. Frankly, I probably would have never came back, but it did.
My brother moved there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has a big old garden in his backyard and everything. Kind of one of those guys that don't tell me anything. I got all my rights and this and that, and loves it in Texas.
Hmm.
It sounds like the food in Texas is pretty amazing. He's
Oh, yeah.
all
Oh,
about all the
barbecue.
different foods. So
Let me tell you, I was being a New Yorker because we're very uptight about our food and everything over here. Because if you ask any New Yorker, they'll tell you we got the best this, the best that, the best this. I was like moving to Texas was like concerning to me because I'm like, I don't think the food's probably going to be as good here, not at least the staple foods, you know. But I got down there and let me tell you something. I found every single food that I would consider a staple food here, there, just as good, and then plus a whole bunch of other stuff that we don't even have here at all, and it was better.
right.
So I was very surprised by that. It took me a while to find a pizza place that was good, but I did find one. And yeah,
Did you manage
they were
to
from,
find any New York cheesecake down there?
yeah, I mean their bakeries are top notch down there. The only thing that nobody can seem to get right is a bagel.
Ah,
No matter, but that's not a Texas problem. That's like a no matter where you go, other than not even where I live in New York gets bagels right. So yeah, you got
bagels
to
are
live
not
like
easy.
where I used to live to have good bagels. So
Yeah, we managed to go off topic, haven't we?
oh, listen,
Yeah.
Nathan and I are on diet, so you went into food, and then the next thing you know.
The things Joe and I do, man, just to have a little fun, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, getting back to it. So let me ask you, what do you think is next for the for what they found with the pyramids? Now that they're trying to confirm it, do you think they're going to have to go back and do more retesting in order to really solidify it, or do you think that the peer reviews are going to be able to actually make something of it?
I think the peer review will come out with the same information, and then the argument will change, or it'll probably be stifled. I don't know. But there's no way that the Egyptian authorities are going to let anybody dig to get under there to have a look. There's just no way.
Well, aren't they just arguing about the 3D rendering? Like they're not arguing about what the scan looks like. It's just basically what they're thinking it is.
Yeah. But because they have it from so many different angles, I mean, they can't show us all the data that they have. And then they use AI probably to create the models that have been that we get to see from the massive amount of data that they have. There's no way that we would be able to say, oh yes, that doesn't look like that, because if AI is looking at it from all the different angles and all the way around with all this data and able to come up with those structures, then I would trust AI. So
yeah, I would trust it in that regard too, because it's basically creating all those data points with a 3D render at that point is all it's doing. And that's proven technology that, something as simple as your smartphone could do. It's just using a different data set.
So the next steps, well, I don't think we're going to hear from them again for a while with anything new. There's going to be some kind of, I think, conference in December that they're going to be announcing things, but I guess that's after a peer review. There's two of them who are going to be going to the Cosmic Summit. I would so want to get, how bad.
We all want to get there, I know.
Yeah. Imagine how big a deal it is for me to get there, because it's such a long way and so expensive.
I totally understand. Nathan and I had the conversation. We're like, so what would it realistically cost? And we both kind of looked at each other and we're like, all right, maybe next year.
If you can go, please go, because it's going to be the biggest. This is going to be a real good one. I mean, I know they're always good, but this one is going to be a real good one.
I'll tell you what's hard, at least, is for me. And you know what? These people, they watch these kinds of things. So, spread the word. I know you need it bigger for your prices to be lower, but the ticket prices have to be lower, because when you
Mm.
start adding in everything all together and then the ticket prices are what they are and you have all the tiers and you're just trying to raise as much money as you can that way,
Yeah.
now if you want all access in, you're in for, 500 or 700 US dollar
Mm.
at that point, and you haven't booked a hotel, you haven't planned a way to get there. It's the same cost as a vacation at that point to go to a conference.
Yes.
So
It's big money.
yeah.
And for me, I'm just retired. I don't have much in the way of income. I save up hard to get to places like Egypt, and then I end up spending a couple of years paying off my credit card.
Right.
So yeah, but I would. Oh, if I could get there, I would definitely get there. So
Yeah. Have you watched or ever interacted with like Joanna James or anybody like that?
yeah, Johanna James is amazing.
Yeah, no, she's really fascinating.
She's become such a good presenter, at these conferences. She's really got people organized, and she's entertaining. It's great to see her.
Yeah, I think she's a good voice for the community. That was definitely my takeaway. That there was definitely a couple things that she shed light on that maybe I didn't even think of before. So she's usually there too.
In person.
I don't know who that is. Sorry.
That rings a bell though.
Let's get back to some Egypt stuff or some Atlantean stuff. So, all right, Atlantis. What could you tell us that they ran across there that you expected over in Egypt? Did you expect all that, the labyrinth and everything? Because I saw the labyrinth video, which is brilliant, by the way. That it was all under the surface where they took this top layer and they reused all the stuff, and then everything under it was still there.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I think it was 2008, there was a team set up to scan the Hawira labyrinth, and they, did their job, and they found that there was a lot more underneath that they didn't realize was there, because the part of the labyrinth which was on the ground had been dismantled over time. Not just the Romans, but even the Egyptians themselves had taken bits of it to be reused in other places. And so what was on the surface was massive and very impressive. And it got dismantled, and all that was left was rubble. So the archaeologists were thinking that that's it, there was nothing there. But some of the historians from Greek and Roman times said that when they saw it, there was an underground part of it that they weren't allowed to visit. I think it was Herodotus that mentioned it. Anyway, could also be Strabo. There was a couple of them. Anyway, after they'd done the scans, they discovered that there was a lot more underneath that hadn't been dismantled. It was still intact. And what we were walking around on was the ceiling covered in rubble from the...
Oh, wow.
So when this team discovered this, one of them, well, maybe more than one of them, but somebody thought that it was okay to tell the public that they made this discovery. And when that happened, the Egyptian authorities got very, very upset, and it all got whoosh, and they were told that they cannot release their findings, and that, don't look here, it's Egyptian security. And it was a big deal. They were really hushed up. And then about 4 years later, they were permitted to release their findings, or at least they were permitted to release the findings that they were allowed to release, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we know from that scan is that it goes down multiple layers. We don't know how many, and we know that it's intact. When I went there, and I had a good walk around, and it looked like there'd been some digging in one small area, but it doesn't look as if they were actually into the underground area. When I tried to get into the pyramid, it was flooded. So it's possible that when the pyramid's not flooded, there's an access way from there. But I don't think it happens very often, because there was a canal put in there. I don't know if it was 200 years ago or something like that. Could be longer. That was put in around and actually goes through the remains of the labyrinth. So it is the reason that the pyramid floods. And it was very disappointing. I went in and got to some water, and I looked back. I had a guide with me, and he said, "That's it. That's as far as you can get." So I don't know how often it clears out, but I've tried to do some research, and I haven't found that many people have seen it without the water in it. I would hazard a guess that the labyrinth is also flooded, but depending on how far down it goes, and I think it will go down a long way. I think it will be many levels. There could be some levels that haven't flooded, and also we know that the Egyptian priests went down into that first underground level at least, because Herodotus told us that down there they keep certain treasures and secrets and bodies of dead kings and things like that. So I probably haven't got that quite right, but he was not permitted to go down into the underground part. But it was obvious that the ancient Egyptians were down and in there. So assuming that the place was from a much older epoch, which is what I believe, the dynastic Egyptians were at least down one level, maybe more. But if there are as many levels as I think there will be at the labyrinth, I'd hazard a guess that the dynastic Egyptians didn't get their way into all of the levels. But once again, I'm just guessing.
Do you think that the Egyptian authorities know the scope of the labyrinth of just ancient Egypt by and large? Do you think that they know and that they're just the keepers of it?
I'm absolutely sure they know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the resistance to the disclosure of that, would be. It just seems like it would actually, if anything, bolster them, and solidify the importance of their culture and, everything throughout, the course of history. And here they are kind of keeping it to the side. And the amount that they keep under wraps seems to be so significant that, like, it prevents you from even having a base layer of understanding above what you might learn at an elementary school level. Like,
yeah,
I'm just trying to understand why they're doing that.
They've got a heap of problems. One is the amount of resources that it would take to actually excavate these sites.
Yep.
And they're currently focusing on the areas which will bring them in the most money. The second problem that they have is protecting the sites, because as soon as information gets out about places like the Hawira Labyrinth, you've got people trying to sneak in there, when nobody's looking, and get in there and try and find some treasure for themselves. The third aspect is that a lot of the sites that they know exist are actually underneath existing new buildings. For example, Hierapolis. Oh, I cannot even get the word out. It's in Cairo anyway, and it's near the airport, and it's one of the oldest parts of Cairo. And now there's all these skyscrapers built on top of it. There's a small area that you can go and visit with a few statues. It's very pathetic. There's an obelisk and a few bits of ruins, but they know that there's massive amounts underground. And the big problem that they have is the people who own the buildings around these places, they can quietly dig and find extra things if they do that without anybody knowing. And it's one of the reasons that they're wanting to clear all the buildings away from the front of Giza. It's not that they necessarily want to make it more of a tourist place, but it's to try and stop all these people digging, because that's what they're doing. They're going deeper and deeper and finding more stuff, and it goes on the black market, and Egypt doesn't get a look in, and it's not right. So they have all these problems. So that's the reasons that I think that they are trying to keep things, control them. They don't want things to get out too much because they don't want all these treasure hunters going wild. And honestly,
yeah,
they
that seems like poor management. I mean, that's beyond anything else, because at the end of the day, there's all sorts of different agreements that, you know, archaeologists and treasure hunters alike and so on and so forth agree to reach with mutual parties to be able to properly excavate sites. And it happens all the time. They do it with treasure wrecks, you know, where a treasure might be wrecked and belong to a certain country or have sunken in the waters of a certain country. And as long as somebody's willing to go out on their own accord and find it and recover it, you know, even though the findings would technically belong to this country, that country, whatever have you, you know, they have a pre-written agreement as to what the terms are, if and when you find something.
It doesn't work that way in Egypt.
Yeah.
So in Egypt, if one of the locals finds a gold goblet, let's say, if they turn it into the authorities say, thank you very much. And that's it. They don't get anything. Whereas, you know, they think to themselves, if I sell it on the black market, I'll get X. If I melt it, I won't get caught and I'll get Y. It'll be less, but I won't get caught. Whereas if I try and sell on the... So these fabulous artifacts, because these people are poor, they would rather melt them down so they're less likely to get caught.
I don't blame. I mean, you're saying it's not right, and I agree with that 100%. But on the same token, I don't blame them one bit, which is why, like I said, these other sorts of agreements exist where kind of everybody could be happy about it. You know, you get to be able to catalog everything, study it, etc., and then after a certain time, relinquish it back, a certain percentage of it back to someone who finds it. Clauses in there saying, hey, listen, if you find something of extreme importance that's more than just a metal value worth or whatever, then, you know, that is going to be held by us, but we'll evaluate it. And then whatever the value is, you get 30% of that. You know,
I think that is a much better
these are the
idea.
sort of agreements that try to deter people from thieving this stuff and then hiding their crime, you know, because then it de-incentivizes it. It's like, if you're going to end up going to jail if you get caught or whatever have you, you know, that's decentivizing. But then if you find it, you could actually get and then get your name on it too and be known for the discovery. That's incentivizing. So it's just, that's all I'm saying, is it just seems like poorly managed more than a resource issue.
Not only that, you get the location.
Yeah.
So you can figure out if there's more.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, I think that's a big, big problem for them in Egypt. So they're going to have to find some solution to that, because I think that many treasures are just disappearing. And that breaks my heart. It really does.
Yeah, I've been in antique shops and stuff before, and like, take it for what it's worth, but you know, those like little like the little scarab beetles, you know, in like gold with like some green rock in there sort of deal. And, you know, to me, it looks like a replica or whatever, but then you talk to the person, they're like, no, I mean, this is real as far as we know, sort of thing. And then you kind of turn on YouTube and you actually see that over and over and over again. And you realize the abundance of these things that out there being found and then finding its way not into a museum.
Yeah, but if it hasn't got any background, I think they call it, does it call it precedence or something?
Provenance.
Provenance, that's it, yeah.
Yep.
If it doesn't have provenance, then it's not really worth anything except, the gold. So
Right.
without the provenance, yeah. I have a ring which someone found when they were doing, metal detector at Hadrian's Wall. And I bought it because it's an Egyptian ring. And it's got quartz crystal in it. And to me, it's definitely Egyptian. And I would like to know what an Egyptian ring was doing at Hadrian's Wall. So, but it doesn't have any provenance because the person was just, they're doing metal detecting, and it's not an official archaeological thing, and it hasn't been written up.
So I don't want to go super off topic, but I metal detect, and I want to share with you something that it goes to show how far you could actually take these things, right?
Oh, okay.
When I was metal detecting by my old house a few years back, and I dug something up, and I was like, "Ooh, I got something good," and what it was a stash that, you have the sash that you hold your ammunition and stuff on, and it had a battalion marker on it.
Wow.
And it was British. So I was like, yeah, this is a good find. Now I start researching it, and where I started getting a little screwed up was the the particular design of this was issued at the last of the Napoleonic Wars, which was not in the United States. Okay. So I'm sitting there like, how did this Napoleonic War, officer's medallion get like right by the bay by where I live? And that rabbit holed me. Okay. And what I found out was this, and this is what was incredible, that at the end of the Napoleonic War, the regiment that was fighting, in North Africa, okay, came back to the United Kingdom. Okay, they were reissued equipment. Part of that reissue was the medallion thing that they had on there, the sash medallion, with all the portions of the war that they fought, all the battles of the war that they fought. Then half of them were recommissioned back to the last year of the Napoleonic War, and the rest of them were recommissioned to have a blockade off of the Long Island Sound by where I live. Now, what you have to ask yourself is, so now I have all this known history as to how this particular buckle that shouldn't be here because it's, the War of 1812, how it got on the shore. And if they were in a blockade, what were they doing on land? Because there were no real battles on Long Island all too much during the War of 1812, not in my area, at least. Right? Well, the answer was that they're from the UK, and they have to restock and replenish if for purposes of the blockade. They'd have to go to land. There was some places that were friendly, but other places that weren't. When they weren't friendly, they would go and rob and pillage basically anything on the shore. The town I came from was a fishing village back in those days, and a small shipping port. So they had stuff coming in and out of the docks all the time. So what probably ended up happening was they came to shore to try and resupply by taking over this dock, and probably somebody didn't make it back. I contacted, there's a museum specifically for the regiment. I contacted them and told them everything that I just said, and more details too, because I had papers in front of me and everything, right? And I was like, what I want to know is who didn't come back from that area of Long Island, during that conflict, and then I would be able to tell you whose it was. They had all the records, and this was their answer to me. Oh yeah, we could absolutely find that out and tell you. $50 an hour for us to look through the records, and it'd probably take us like 8 to 10 hours to be able to definitively track this down and verify it. I'm like sending them pictures. I'm like, bro, this thing should be in your museum.
Mm.
And I'm like, you're gonna charge me $1,000 to tell me a name of whose it was? I was like, thanks. I'll go with the guy that got shot dead on the coast of Long Island.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but so
Wow, what a
sometimes
find.
it's weird how things end up there. They just seem so out of place. But when you start digging, all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, this is how it ended up there, and it's a whole story now of exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, it would be interesting to know how this ring got to Hadrian's Wall. And when I was in Tanis at the museum there, I saw an identical one in the actual museum. So
Really,
Oh,
that was
right on.
that's
reassuring.
incredible.
Mm.
That's very cool. What did it look like?
Oh, well, maybe next time we talk, I'll bring it and show you.
Yeah,
It's-
okay.
It looks like a scarab on one side, and it looks like it's empty on the other side. It's got the metal that goes round in the scarab shape, and it's got part of it's got a quartz crystal in it, and it rolls around. It turns around, so it's a spinning one. So it's got the frame and then the scarab in the middle, but it's all gold and crystal.
Wow. Very nice.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Mm. So yeah, it took me down a rabbit hole myself, because I'm pretty sure that there's a lot more about Egypt in the UK that's not really talked about as much, like the myths of the Egyptian princess who left and went over to Ireland and then went to Scotland, and it's the reason that Scotland is called Scotland, because her name was Scotia or something like that. So I think there's a lot more there, and when I've got some time, I'll do some research.
Yeah, and that ties in with Druidism and all their high priests and stuff, because all their practices were fundamentally very similar to what we know about the ancient Egyptians' high priest practices being.
Exactly.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think they, instead of calling it Earth, maybe 30,000 years ago or something, they just called the whole world Atlantis?
I don't think so, but I don't think that's because I don't think the word Atlantis was used. I think it's a modern day term. I think that Plato took a word that he got from the Egyptians and turned it into a more Greek sounding word. And I think the Egyptians got the word that they gave to Plato, to Solon. It was Solon who was Plato's relative that Plato got the information from. So Solon went to Egypt and he got the information in the Temple of Sais, and he took it back to Greece. Plato ran with it. So I think Plato changed the name to make it more Greek sounding. I think the name that the Egyptians had typed on their walls, and carved into their walls, had been Egyptianized. So I think that the whole that concept of Atlantis is very modern. I mean, the last 5,000 years kind of modern. But the concept of a word for the whole world, yeah, I think there probably was a word for the world. I just don't think it was Atlantis.
Right. I mean, you were referring to Atlantis as Tau, if I'm not mistaken. In
my dream regressions, Atlantis is called Tantau, and it does
Tantal.
cover the world. So there's the Tantal city, which is the area that we would call Atlantis, and then there were like satellite places like Geb and Kem, Peri, Peos, places like that, Tehut.
It's interesting. I just kind of wonder, because they call the whole world something,
Yeah.
and it wasn't Earth back then. I doubt they had the same name.
Well, I mean, I think that they've been toying around with lately that, that Earth really derived from from Gaia, and that's probably one of the oldest references to Earth known. I'm pretty sure it's Gaia, and there's a lot of derivatives of that depending on where and when.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that whatever they called Earth, like maybe it was Mother or something like that. And of course, different cultures would have different names for it.
Yeah, what was the language situation? I don't think we ever really talked about that. Like, was it all the same language spoken across all the city and the satellites?
Yes.
And then different languages outside of that? Or
that's right. So the more primitive civilizations had their own language, but across the whole of Tantal was one mechanism of communication. Of course, as time goes on, people create accents, and they have unique ways of speaking, and they develop a little bit slightly unique culture for that area. And that's why the term, like when you hear people talk about Kemet, but in my dream regressions, it's only ever Kem. When you talk about Kemet, the et bit is the culture, the accents, the way they speak, anything unique about them. So it's about the culture, the people, the food, the accents. It's a bit bigger than just the place. So of all the places, when you're talking about it with an et on the end, it's about the uniqueness of what's developed for that area rather than just the place.
Okay. It's is the language that was spoken, is it similar to any modern language that we know?
Well, the only person I know who's heard the language is my mother, and she says that I sound like gibberish when I'm having one of these weird dreams. It's a load of gibberish. You're just talking away in gibberish. So, well, why can't you record me when I do it? But she never did. She never did. So
your interactions within your dream regressions are in that language, but your recollection when you wake up is your, English extrapolation of that experience.
Yeah. So it feels like I'm speaking in my native tongue. So when it's happening and I'm speaking and I'm interacting with someone, when I wake up, it feels like the whole thing has been in English, even though I know it wasn't in English, because unique words have been used that I don't have in the English language. But that's how my mind has coped with it.
Okay. Like innate understanding. Sorry to cut you off.
Go ahead. I was just going to ask about the ships. Were they wooden?
The what?
The ships? Like sea ships? Were they wooden? Or they didn't have those at all?
No, they weren't wooden. And I would call them submersibles rather than ships. And they were definitely not wooden. They were some kind of metal.
Really?
You better go find some.
I don't remember seeing anything of significance made of wood.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because they were technologically evolved in, that as well. To deal with pressures and stuff under the ocean, they had to be, yeah.
And I assume that the submersibles would be powered at that point, because now we're not talking sails on the surface. You're talking about some kind of propulsion, so the propulsion must be something in line with the whole resonance situation that's
Yeah,
going
so
on.
it was all frequency vibration stuff, whether you were flying or whether you were going in the water. It didn't seem to make much of any noise at all. It wasn't like a propeller or anything going round and round and round. There was very little noise involved.
That makes a lot of sense. A lot of the stuff we do in residence, you can't hear it. Well, I can't. I'm standing right next to it. Then again, I'm half deaf. So I'll stand right next to it. I can't hear anything. These guys tell me, they go, oh, yeah, we watched it live. And no, you were making all kinds of noise. Like the sounds of everything. I couldn't hear any of it. So to me, there was no sound. I was just like, doo. So but I guess that's way normally for me. So. Yeah, I wonder if that's just it. Maybe it was just they are making sounds that we can't hear. Because I know animals go crazy.
Yeah.
Now, like if there's resonance somewhere and it's like cracking on the surface of the earth, no animal goes near it.
Mm.
Yeah,
but you know, right when away. There's some resonance and you put your hand on something, you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't feel anything.
Well, the frequency is probably at high, like the same sort of stuff that I was talking about earlier with the radio signals or Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or any of these. You don't hear that or feel that either. I mean, that doesn't mean it has no effect on you, right? But it doesn't have any sort of apparent discernible immediate effect.
Yeah, you feel things in hertz. In kilohertz, you don't. In megahertz, you don't. Terahertz, you don't. They have different effects, what they do, but you don't feel those. You only feel the ones in hertz. So if you feel an earthquake, probably in hertz. You know, if you go into a chamber and you start making sound and stuff in there, it acts as a resonance chamber and it bounces around that signal again in hertz, because it's all the measurement is distance over time. So if it happens real slow, then that amount of distance for that time is what the frequency is. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting how everything goes. And if they have high hertz, it's probably technological. And if it's just regular hertz, then no technology needed. The earth does it itself.
One of the things I expected was there at least to have been some accidents. You know, like you have today, you've got planes that for some reason fall out of the sky. But I haven't come across, I've been through all my journals and I haven't found any example of where one of these flying crafts has just fallen out of the sky or one of the submersibles has just sunk and everybody died. And I don't know if that's just good fortune or if it just didn't happen.
Yeah, that's interesting to think about because, like you said, statistically, these things sort of happen all the time. So why the absence? I mean, there is a possibility that, I don't know, it's like if the whole idea of breaking locality in order for these phenomena to occur, in order to be separate of your immediate environment in order for it to function as it does, right? If you break locality, then you have a much lower rate of incidence, I would say, because you're separate of your environmental factors. So there would be a lot less potential at that point for something to just simply go wrong, like a collision or something at that point, because you're in your own locality, separate of everything else around.
Like another dimension type of thing.
Yeah, it's like a slightly off. It's right. Another dimension isn't really the absolute truth about it, but it kind of does play a part in that because it's like the same reason like why a UFO wouldn't necessarily have an effect on its environment around it. all the time, or it's that same exact thing. The two are just separate of one another and therefore unable to really interact in a meaningful way, which is one of the fundamental principles of having something that's able to fly like that, or something that's able to move through the water without a contact with the water, leading to a frictionless ability to travel. That's sort of the key point there. So that could be a reason for low incidence too, is just because it's just far less a probability.
I got a question. Were they able to see into the past or the future with their technology?
No.
I didn't ever see that. I only asked the Vatican had something that they were able to do that with, supposedly, so I figured I'd give it a shot. You never know.
Yeah. Well, in the third era, when everything was really unpleasant for the people of Tantau, and they kind of developed meditation and going inwards, and that's really when they became spiritual. I think a few things. They were able to make their lives a bit more pleasant by turning their beliefs inside rather than being outward looking. And so I think there was a lot in that era that I don't know about.
But wouldn't something like that come out as, and I don't want to say this in the wrong way, but like a group of people that get together with hidden secrets and stuff like that, like an order of some type, that they don't tell everybody, the big bosses or the high chieftains, however you want to say it, they don't let them know it. Is there something like that came out of that?
Well, the problem that they had was that religion was forced on them in the Third Era. And of course, nobody believed that the ruler that was of the Third Era was really a god. But they had to kind of go through the motions and go to what would be temples. And instead of doing what they were supposed to be doing, worshipping this pretend god, they were instead looking inwards, but it was across the board. All the people were doing it, and somehow the leader didn't think that they were doing anything other than worshipping him. So I think when eventually they did leave, when the whole thing fell in on itself and people did leave, I suspect that those people went to India. But I don't know this. This is just a guess based on the way that the culture developed in India. I think that it may have had origins with the people who were inward looking.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that in Hinduism and Buddhism, obviously, that would come to mind. They share a lot of similarities, and they were kind of torn off the same cloth.
It would also explain some of those wars in India of the gods, that they would fight in the sky, and vimanas and things like that. It would explain a few things. It's another rabbit hole which I'd love to go down, but it's another very big rabbit hole.
Yeah, right. That is definitely a big one. That's a whole other line there.
Yeah. So did the Atlanteans actually believe in God as we know it?
No. There was a belief in reincarnation. I guess that's the closest would be Buddhism to the belief system. It was a do no harm kind of belief.
So if there's a belief in reincarnation, but there's also that longevity and things that the like too that are an option. And obviously there's a high degree of like knowledge and intelligence and things that are known as opposed to beliefs, right? Is that to say that they had proven reincarnation in some sort of way, or they just sort of, that was their hope?
As far as I know, it was just a hope. But there was a belief that once you died, you risked being reincarnated in one of the other cultures. And it was the fear of every Atlantean or person from Tantal to come back in one of the primitive civilizations. They really didn't want that.
That bad, huh?
It was considered to be, yeah.
See, I know this is silly, but I would love to see somebody who had past life regression of being one of those people,
Yeah.
subject to the Atlanteans, from that perspective. I would love that, because that would just be the whole other side of the story. It would be interesting to know how they viewed the more civilized society at that point, because the way that you described it, it just didn't, it seems like they were kind of content and fine on their own, and maybe they felt oppressed, so to speak, by the society, like what they were doing was of little value, maybe.
Well, even today we've got primitive civilizations living. Take for example that one that's off the coast of India that has no contact whatsoever with modern civilization.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what they think when they see the planes go overhead. It would be really an interesting thing to find out, because you also get in the Pacific, you've got the stories of cargo cults, what some civilizations have done when they found things from a more advanced civilization of the same time. It's makes for very interesting study, I think.
Yeah. It just seems like they were such a separate yet prevalent thing that just it was existing right at the same exact time, yet all the focus is on the more civilized aspect, and rightfully so, because it was just probably more to know about that. But there's this whole other part of humanity that just existed right side by side with it.
There's one thing that also I wonder about, and that's Lemuria, because I don't know anything at all about any other civilization that was similar to Atlantis, called Mu or Lemuria. And I do wonder if it was a different time frame from what I know about, or if it doesn't make any sense to me. Why do I not know about this sort of stuff? There is the place that Tehut came from, but I know it wasn't called Lemuria. So yeah, I have quite a lot of questions.
Well, that in itself seems like the same thing as you said before about Atlantis. Lemuria sounds Greek derived, which means that if it was a place, it probably wasn't Lemuria. Because just look at the base of the word; it's all in Latin and Greek base.
Well, didn't they say that was like a country-sized landmass that went under the water or something?
They said it was in the Pacific, or it could have been between Africa and India. But yeah, for me, I have nothing at all.
Yeah,
it makes you wonder.
Probably right there, and just by a different name. After all that.
Yeah.
Unless the water was rising already at that time, because we're probably what would normally be 250 feet above where land should be, where the water level is. So when you look at everything in like the Florida Keys and stuff like that, and they start finding all the civilizations underwater, well, that was probably the top of the earth at some point.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting.
Absolutely.
There's one of those maps where you can dial up and dial down the timeline and see where the water level was at. It's very interesting.
Oh yeah, paints a whole different picture of what the world would have been, huh?
Mm. Yeah, when I found it, I was trying to see if there's any places that I recognized, but no.
That makes you wonder, huh? If it was that far down, where was all the water hiding? I mean, what
Oh,
happened?
it was in the North and South Pole. It was, it would snow at the top and the bottom, and it would gather, and so more water would gather, and so it was when the Arctic and Antarctic snow started to melt that the water levels came up.
Well, right. I mean, technically, right. I mean, the last ice age, was in full swing 35,000 years ago when, you would have been around at that point.
Yeah.
So you were,
It
at
was
probably
a middle
glacial
bit around
maximum.
the Earth, just a ring around the Earth that was temperate.
So yeah, you're right, because 35,000 years ago was definitely a glacial maximum where all of North America, like the whole northeast, all the way to the west coast, would have been covered, probably up to Pennsylvania, like that area, and then all straight across, and then the rest of the world too. There's just glaciation, north in northern Europe and everything.
Yeah, and it just seemed normal that a large amount of land was frozen. I do have dream regressions where I go to one of these places that's in one of these frozen wastelands, and it was cold. So,
What was there civilization there? What was that like?
yeah, it was a more primitive hunter-gatherer civilization, but they were managing to get a good life. It was kind of on the edge of the snow area, so there was still water. It was just very, very cold, and it was a very unpleasant experience for me because one of them tried to attack me. So,
Well, that's
it's a long story. I won't go into it.
So,
Well-
here's something we didn't ask, and I'm sorry, Nathan. So, the timeline kind of coincides with other like Homo sapien, species, like Cro-Magnon man or whatever Neanderthal, things like that. Were you familiar with that at the time, or was that an element?
I believe that they were earlier, much earlier.
So they went extinct, 10,000 years
Or had
ago,
evolved.
like that.
Because the Neanderthal, they kind of interbred with the Homo sapiens, so they were wiped out, but they were also interbred with. So
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, to go back to your plant. So,
oh yes,
they have plants that only grew in the younger Dryas.
that would be interesting. I've never actually investigated that possibility, but how would I find out about that?
I watched a special on it not that long ago. If I find it, I'll send it to you.
But I think it must have still been around for some of the ancient peoples, because there's diagrams and things that I've seen of something that looks similar. So,
Well, see, I'm a little confused. When we think about like Atlantis, we always see nice sunny day, ports, things like that. But then you're saying a lot of the world was covered in ice. So is there just a ring around the center of the planet that was...
that's right. A temperate ring around the planet.
Really? So they right now the planet they have different. How do I want to say it? Different regions say at the 30 degree mark, and then you got the equator and the other 30 at the bottom. There's weather patterns that follow that all the time.
Mm.
So would it have cut off on both those 30s and just stripped it?
Pretty much, yes, because it was only a kind of a narrowish band that was temperate, and it really was quite completely different the way it is now.
Was it as warm as it is now?
In certain places, yes, in the center parts. In the temperate zones, it was actually very nice.
I'm still wondering, even if there's that much ice on the earth, how would the oceans be so low in certain areas?
Because of the ice.
But I don't think there's enough accumulation there to drop it. That I mean, we're talking a big drop in the ocean.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, but if you think about precipitation over an area which is already frozen, it collects the ice. So whether it's rain or snow or whatever, it collects on it falls on an area that's frozen. It freezes. So
I get it.
that is then no longer available to be in the ocean, and then more comes up out of the ocean and goes into the sky, and then comes back down in certain places. And where you have mountainous regions and you've got orographical precipitation happening, it's not going to go beyond that area. So it's going to stay. It's not going to climb up over Mount Everest or wherever. It's going to stay there. So I think over a long period of time, it would gather, it would collect in areas of high altitude and areas where it was very north or very south.
yeah, I mean, I've heard that the glaciers and everything were hundreds of feet thick.
Yeah.
Hundreds of feet. So,
And that
you lock that much water up over massive quantities of the north and south, poles and stuff. And then you expand it down almost to where we would consider a temperate zone now. Today, like that's going to reduce the ocean waters by 100 feet. You know what happens if you take away 100 feet of ocean depth? All of a sudden your map expands wildly because it's kind of the way that goes.
Okay.
And and then some of them were hundreds of feet tall, not just 100, hundreds. So I don't know. This is what they say. I wasn't alive back then, and I don't recall from when I was.
But it's also consistent with what they talk about with regards to the scablands and large amounts of melted snow and big blocks of ice coming down the country and just ripping up the land and depositing large boulders along the way that had been collected by the ice and essentially digging into the ground. And that's all quite consistent with that happening.
Yeah, and not to mention the fears that we supposedly have today, where it's like, do you know what happens if 1 inch of glacial ice melts? 1 inch? They're like, you could kiss this landmass goodbye, that landmass goodbye, 1 inch. So now imagine it locked up hundreds of feet. So yeah, it's a big difference.
And where do people like to congregate? They like to be near water. A lot of the places that have been underwater will be the places where humans wanted to hang out.
It's probably a complicating factor in us finding this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of curious about it. they say there's civilizations under the ice in the Arctic and stuff like that right now, like ancient civilizations. But if you guys are right, and there were all these glaciers everywhere, way too high, how is the Earth not flooded while those civilizations were prospering? So you get what I'm saying? Because if you're saying there's that much water still in there, if we lose it by an inch, it raise it by so much. At what point does that go underwater? Because it's already under all the ice. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that everything is that way. It would seem more that we have like large masses of water in rock inside the planet. And
Yeah.
it would seem more that when they talk about the flood, the water came straight out of the earth and just into them. You know what I mean? It immediately rose. You know what I mean? Not big tsunamis, not big water. You know what I mean? That would be like that. It was just whoop, and done.
If the water level was to increase dramatically over a short period of time, which is what I believe happened from, say, meteor strikes, in some parts of the world, it would just seem like the water level is just rising real quick.
Okay.
In terms of there being civilizations in the Arctic or Antarctic, I don't know anything about that. But if there were, I would assume that civilization would be deep underground. But I know nothing about that.
They show ancient maps that they mapped the whole thing. But then we look at it now, it's under ice everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Perry Reese map is one of the better ones for that. And it shows exactly the outline of Antarctica. So you'd have to be of advanced technology to know that, or the area had to be above water.
Hey guys, I have to excuse myself. I'll be back.
Okay.
Continue.
So my assumption is that it was mapped with technology, not that it was still under ice, but it was mapped with technology, is my assumption.
Gotcha. So it wasn't a physical person out there doing it unless you were technologically in the sky mapping it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we do it today.
Interesting.
So there's a version of the Perry Reese map in Istanbul. They've got a museum of Arab technology, and they've got a gigantic version of it outside the museum, and it's just fascinating. They've put it onto a globe, and it's a thing of beauty. So
very cool. Oh, yeah, I asked you about that. They said in the Middle East when we invaded Iraq that we went and took a bunch of artifacts that would have been, what was it, Gilgamesh's time, or there was somebody else over there. You know anything about that?
No, I don't. But the Epic of Gilgamesh is a good read, a very good read, because it has a lot of elements that we see in the later on Bible. It also has some myths that relate to things that I think I know where they came from. So for me, reading the Epic of Gilgamesh makes for really reinforcing things for me. In terms of Gilgamesh as a real person, yes, maybe he was. He wasn't a very nice person until he met Enkidu, but he kind of mellowed with age. But if he did exist, then there would be probably a tomb, and if they found his body, then it wouldn't totally surprise me, but I don't know anything about it.
I was watching something a while back. They were talking about Gilgamesh, and it struck me only because of the plant you were talking about, that he was looking for the same type of thing for longevity in life. And he found it in the swamp, and he put it on the shore. Yeah, and then the snake ate it while he wasn't looking or bathing or whatever it was. And the snake had peeled its skin and moved on. So at least that's what was the story I was told. So I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, the rendition that we get of the Epic of Gilgamesh, it describes a guy who, at the end of the big floods and everything, he became immortal, and he was given this plant, and Gilgamesh was trying to find him and get all the answers. But anyway, he essentially had this like seaweed plant that he was enabled him to have longevity, which is not the same thing as what I've. But it's still
no. It wasn't the same plant that you're describing. It was just the similarities in what he was looking for in the plant.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of really interesting stuff in there. Once you pick up the Epic of Gilgamesh, you won't be able to put it down. It's really good. It's a bit naughty in places too, by the way. So a bit raunchy.
Oh, Joe's missing the good part.
So yeah.
Oh man, you hear that, Joe? You missed the good part.
Of course, I missed the best part. Yeah, it's not the way. Well, here, I'll tell you about the best part. You are going to have super bad regret after that big contest, brother.
But what?
We have a contest coming up of eating wings with hot sauce on them.
Oh, right. Yeah, you're both going to regret that.
Yeah, and then Joe was over here playing Mr. Macho earlier, and then putting them on his wrist, and then licking them off and saying it's not hurting at all, right? And now it's coming back to bite him.
Yeah.
Well, you've got to train for these things. You've got to be trained. You got to get.
I'm here for it. Yeah, it was no joke. It was Carolina Reaper hot sauce. This stuff was hot.
Count me out. I wouldn't do it.
My stomach is hurting me right now.
They say it's actually good for you, so let's hope it's right.
I was on that kick. I was feeling that. Boost my metabolism a little bit or something. Yeah, so it's doing that, all right.
But don't do it if you've got a stomach ulcer. That can really be dangerous. So
yeah. No, I've been divorced long enough that it's that all my wounds have healed. My stomach ulcers.
Anyway, guys, I probably better call it a day. And we've been going for over 2 hours.
Yeah, well, nice, good conversation.
I mean, this is right. We can keep this going for another 2. My stomach won't, but you know, we'll have to have you back on soon.
Okay, great.
Well, Liz, I want to thank you for hanging out with us. It's been awesome. Would you want to do it again?
Yeah, of course. It's good fun.
Maybe in a few weeks or something, we'll do this again, and we'll get a little more Atlantis stuff in there, a little more Egypt stuff in there. I think it was just cool hanging out today, talking about everything.
Yeah, it was. Thank you. And
no, we love to have you. Thank you so much.
You can tell me all about your chicken wing experience.
Oh, it's good.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you're going to have to watch that for yourself. We'll get you in on it.
Okay. All right. All right. Have a good one.
And,
have a good night, Liz.
Okay. Bye.
Oh, my God, dude. Joe ran to the toilet after that, man. Don't let him lie to you. He that Reaper hot sauce reaped his what hole and went straight to the can. Oh man. Oh man. We're so gonna pay for that day. I know it. It's gonna be like a week or 2 for me and like maybe 2 days for Joe. Oh man. Oh, it's so great, man. Oh man, Liz is a good sport about it, man. She's a really awesome person to hang out with and talk to. Really easygoing about things, and has fun with Joe and I. I really want to say thank you to Liz for coming on and speaking with Joe and myself. Really awesome every time she comes on, man. Really good information, and like I said, good person to hang out with and talk with. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, cool episode, man. Really kind of get into a lot of different things and modern things that are going on, and she's all over those scans in Egypt, by the way. Every time that they come out, she checks them out. She goes through them on her channel and really thorough on it. She goes to Egypt on vacation and checks them out. Man, really cool stuff there. Oh man, oh I'm telling you right now, man, I'm doing great with the weight loss. I can't give you specifics, but I've been sticking to it and it's paying off. So, oh yeah, I might need an exorcism after I eat all that hot sauce. Dude, it's gonna be bad. I have no teeth, man, so it goes straight out my gums. So, it's bad enough. You brush your teeth, get rid of the taste or whatever. I can't do that, man. I'm gonna be scrubbing skin in my mouth, if you know what I mean, with that toothbrush. That's that's how bad it is, man. You know it's gonna be awful, but you're gonna do it anyway because you promised you would, and it's still gonna be awful. So yeah, high protein. Yeah, well, yeah. I eat protein every day. If you don't, you're in trouble. You're just you're gonna regret it. So, but with that, I do really well. Yeah, that natural one with the Reaper sauce. Oh man, you guys are great. Yeah, I just don't know which one he's gonna pick out. I left it up to Joe to pick out. I guess a smart person would have done their homework and said, let me throw a couple easy ones in there. But well, if you know anything about me, I just go for it. And whether good, bad, or indifferent, man, I got a pair of steel ones and I'm going for it, man. Whatever it takes. So feel free to laugh, have fun, and joke, man. If you guys want to pop on or something like that, Tripto or Ben's going to be in there judging it. Oh my God, dude. I can't wait to hear his laugh while I'm crying. That's going to be awesome. So, oh man, here you go. Brendan says he wrote a special song for us for it, man. So we'll check that out and then throw it on there while we do it. Yeah, yummy gummy. I don't know about any yummy gummies, man. Might have to take a couple of gummies of you know what afterwards to get my mind right again. There you go. Crypto's game. Dude, that's so awesome, man. Oh, what do you say? Lemon juice? Um, yeah. Well, I asked Joe about that and he said, oh, no. Don't worry. You don't need anything. We're just gonna go for it. I'm thinking, man, you're lying to me. We need something to not have my mouth on fire. Like, dude, at some point it's gonna be on such fire, I might go rub dirt from outside on it. I mean, it's just, dude, hot sauce sometimes doesn't agree with me. I make the Barani, and man, I had to put peppers in there and everything. And let's just say this: my breath felt like it was fire, and every time I breathed in, it was like inhaling smoke. Man, it was just bad. I got through it though. I mean, I ate it. Well, I'm fat. Of course I ate it, but I mean, it was burning, man. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna know what the brown code is for sure the next day, or maybe even later that night, man. That's what we should call the contest, Project Brown Code. Who's calling brown code first? You know what I mean? Oh, that's so amazing, man. Oh, breath burned your eyes. Well, sometimes, man, I don't realize that there's peppers on your fingers when you go to do stuff and you just stick them in your eyes. You know what I mean? Stick them by your nose, everything, and your whole face is burning before you know it. Yeah. Coat your stomach before. Yeah. Well, I'll try to get some Pepto Bismol or something. I don't know, man. Maybe some milk. I don't usually drink a lot of milk, but that might be a good thing. No acid, though. No, that'd be bad. It might curdle in my stomach and come back out. That's for sure. Anyway, man, that's going to be an awesome thing. Joe calls it a contest. I don't think it's a contest. I think he's going to win. I just think it's how much pain I'm going to be in before it's over. So that's what I think it is, man. How much pain am I going to be in before it's over? That's really what the whole answer is. So, Anyway, guys, still working on things. I want to show you something really cool. And it's kind of cool, but it's kind of a little off. I don't know. But check this out, man. Look at that. Call that the Hitman coil. Like Bret Hart, man. Black. And then the hot pink. And it's got the hot pink top. It's ready for the one wire energy. So that's cool, man. Lou says yogurt. Yeah, Middle Eastern cultures eat a lot of yogurt with that stuff, man, to cool it down. So pink and black attack, man. This one's going in for a little bit of testing, and then it'll be ready for me to sell this thing. So that's pretty cool, man. I got some things right here. I finished them up, man. Did an awesome video this morning. This circuit I got right here. Oh my. Yeah, it all connects in there together. Looks really nice. Got the plugins for the power and also for the fan. Got it all set up and wired, man. This, I had to make a different fan in here because the one it came with, it wasn't any good. It wouldn't sit there with a field for a Tesla coil. But this one stands up to 20 kV of high voltage being 6 inches away. This fan's awesome. So this thing really works well. So I'm going to be selling these as well, guys. This circuit is a PNP. Basically, 4 feet plus all the way out, all day long. You could literally turn it on in the morning, come back in the afternoon, and it would still be running. These things are not your normal Slayer exciter. They do not set on fire after 5 minutes. So they rock, man. Really push that field out hard. And I did not forget for that Hitman coil, or for the ladies out there, we got the pink little Old Man Bill's logo at the top. Same, got that same hot pink up top and bottom. Maybe you like the bottom black instead. Oops, sorry, dropping things. But that looks cool too with the 2 different colors. So these things are cool, man. I custom made them for this so that they work out really well. But yeah, these circuits are awesome, man. So I went there and spent the time this weekend in my CAD works and got them all running and everything. And man, these things are powerful, man. These coils, if you put a tip on the end, I don't usually sell them with a tip unless you request it. I set them up for the one wire energy so the shaft can go down in there. And then to show you inside this right here, there's that little hole in the center. That's for stabilization of that rod that goes down the center. So when you do your one wire experiments, the rod never hits the side because you don't want that. So yeah, you just put it in there, man. You're ready to jump start on that one wire energy, man, and get everything rocking and rolling. And I actually put in with it, if I can find it real quick. Anyway, I'll find it somewhere. I give a circuit out with it. It's a when you buy the coil 1 and coil 2 together, I put a NPN circuit in there. Now it's not as good as the PNP one. It's about 20-volt circuit. It'll run all day, which is still good for a Tesla coil, but it's not a monster circuit. So I usually give that away with Tesla coil so somebody can just connect power and turn it on right away, verify it works, things are good like that. But man, that PNP circuit's a monster. It is an absolute monster. I don't see Slayer exciters that are not built to the hilt to do this. It don't cost you like $400, man, to just run a simple circuit. This is straight up, man. Throw it in there, connect it, run it. You're good to go all day. Play as much as you want with it. Man, hook it into the ground with your plants and stuff at very low voltage at about maybe 8 to 10 volts and let it run in the water system down there. Man, does it change the world. Allows you to do a lot of experiments for a very, very long time. So that's what I find cool about some of this stuff, man. The AC stuff, you can connect it to this coil, no problem, and get 13-inch sparks out of it without a problem. There's no issue. The coil will handle it. If you want to put a spark gas system in there, it'll handle that as well. So there's really no issue, man. The coil is built right, and it's built very specifically to resonate really well together. So, yeah. Sorry, man. I'm telling you, I'm just excited. Sorry. I've been doing this all weekend. I've been working on this stuff, trying to get it up to speed. And man, it has come out really well. And the printer's been going off all day, and the power is awesome. So let me, since I keep talking about it, this is I did the final checks on a coil for a customer, and I'll show you how it looks. This is just cool, man. Test the coil I'm about to ship out. And yes, I do test every single one of them. So if you see a few little niches on here, that's because I do test it and I do make sure it goes through AC and DC. Little clip on there works perfect. Go ahead and take a look. We're connected in here. These are male and female ends right here. So it always comes with this one on the Tesla coil itself, on both of them. This is the ground. This is the bottom of the coil, and obviously this one's the top. This one right here is a heavier gauge, just so everybody has it. It doesn't necessarily need it, but you have it. This right here is something separate from the coil. The coil itself I sold for $200. This is a PNP circuit. Now, I have a custom shroud on here for a reason. I originally had this AMD fan on there, and it sucks. So I kept the heat sink, got rid of the fan, built my own, put a fan on there that can stand up to 20,000 kilovolts sitting next to it and still turn on. So that works perfect. Right here you have two connectors. One simply just goes off to the fan. The other one goes to your power source. Right here, I have a 48 volt power source. Now, do you need something like this? No. I can take a power pack just like this at anywhere from 12 volts, 24 volts, 32 volts, 40 volts, all the way up to 40 volts and 8 amps. And you can plug it right in here and the circuit will take it no problem. All right, let's go ahead and back up a little bit. Sorry for the other noise. My printers are going off and they're not going to be done for a while. Right now we have two little lights on this side. We're going to turn this thing on and see how far we can push these. Now I'm just going to pull us back a bit like this. I'll turn off the lights and we're going to get started. This is going to be fun. All right. We are right now at 12 volts. So you can already see plasma breakout. 12 volts, strong signal, plasma breakout. Again, this is a Slayer exciter circuit. Not many Slayers do this. Here's the light bulb, we're lighting up. We're good, right? Now, let's just turn up the voltage a little bit. Not too bad. We're at 39 volts right now. Just pull these out. Sorry, I went right out of the picture. Look at that. That right there is 5 feet of distance from that Tesla coil. And it's still pumping out juice. Again, this is my Slayer Exciter circuit. A PNP, absolutely amazing. You see how far they are? That distance is huge. And this right here, beautiful. Just lighten it up. Look at the end of that. Everything about this circuit is amazing. Now, I'm going to turn back on the lights. You see the distance? Now it's still going. Show you this, we're still on. The fan's still running. Puts up with it, no problem. Circuit, not a problem. Again, right there, right around 40 volts. It can do this all day. We see the distance of those. So anyway, coil, perfect. Absolutely works perfect. The PNP circuit, if you wanted to buy that extra, perfect. All I recommend is something like this, DROK, and 48 volts. That's all you need is the power source and a little 12 volt, 2 amp for the fan itself, and it works beautifully. Heat sink sits in there. All the wires are tucked up in there. Nice, clean, easy look. These things just crimp down in there. They come off. You can replace it. This thing isn't hot at all. Anyway, hopefully you guys like that, man. And hopefully the customer loves this Tesla coil because it's absolutely beautiful. That's cool, isn't it? I mean, how many Slayers Exciters do you know do that? I mean, it's more about understanding how things work than it is just throwing in parts and knowing how to work with things. I'll tell you what, I got this little here. I found it real quick. This is the little NPN circuit. This is it, man. Either you know your stuff or you don't. And this is the verification circuit. Like I said, 20 volts all day, man. I give it with the number 1 and number 2 coil, so you have something to verify your circuits with, and that the coil works great. Awesome stuff, man. It's about the rating. It's about understanding heat. It's about understanding how voltage works. The funny thing is, man, is this NPN, this has the same rating as my PNP. Yet I get 20 volts more out of the PNP. Why? It's pulling the negative through the circuit. This one is pushing the positive through the circuit. There is a massive difference in heat levels because what most people don't understand, they read voltage, they read amps. They don't read the temperature. Well, when you put amps into something, get ready for the heat to come. Well, but if you're pulling the negative, you're not pulling the amps through, you're pulling the voltage through. It's a difference. And if you can understand that, wrap your head around it, you'll see why that PNP is a monster. I mean, I don't know about you. Every time I see a Slayer Exciter, man, the thing explodes in the first 5 minutes, or let me rifle in, 5, 6 MOSFETs or transistors into it, and let me watch those set on fire. I mean, it's like a joke after a while. They're like, dude, is this comedy going to end? Or, hey, let me throw in 20 extra parts to make sure it doesn't start on fire. Where's the spirit of the whole Slayer Exciter, man? The Slayer Exciter is supposed to be easy, self-oscillating. So anyway, I definitely got something nice on my hands, and I'm just trying to share it with the public. I think we got a fair price out there for this stuff. It's way less than most people would charge for it. And to be honest with you, I want you guys to have it and run it. I want you to be able to plug it in, get it home. You know what I mean? Put that rod down that center, man. Take a little clip wire and plug it in, man. Now, one of the other things you should know, the circuit, it sounds insane, but those little 99-cent wires, I ran it right on that coil. I did another test a while back. You just put it on there and it'll still run. And you go, well, hold on. Those things, Nathan, that's like 20 gauge wire or less. Those little cheapy wires, and they're not even great wires. How is it not starting on fire when you get like a 4.5 to 5 foot field? Well, it's because it doesn't back up at all. It oscillates perfectly. And when it does, you're not backing up any amps in the circuit. So there's no heat. So it doesn't fry the wire. Kind of an understanding things, man. But I appreciate you guys, man. Yeah. Yeah, we all got to work, get a lot more money, man. Well, this is kind of just to let you guys know, this is not for profit for my pocket. This is to make, cool experiments for my channel. So, like I said, it's very reasonable, man. I had a lot of people tell me to charge a lot more, and I just said no. It's not fair to people. You know what I mean? I'm not in it for profit. I'm in it to make some money so that I can do more stuff on my channel. So build more coils, build everything out. If I can give you guys the understanding of how this works, and then you see it, man, you're gonna come back to me and go, all right, Nathan, you told us about the energy in the water. Now that we've experienced it, man, we got a story to tell. And I encourage you, man, get this thing in there, get it running, take a picture with it, man. I'll throw it on the end of the show with the music. Man, it'd be awesome. You get everybody there with their coils, you know what I mean, ripping it up, changing the AC, go to DC, everything you want to do. When you're ready to do a ZVS circuit and you got an oscilloscope, we can rock that too. The beauty of these circuits, man, like these, this thing right here, this PMP, this thing right here, all day, man, all day. I mean, I don't know what to tell you anymore. It's a beautiful thing, man, when things work and you're not frustrated all the time. And you saw the plasma breakout at the top of that. If you put a needle on that, man, that thing's a lot bigger. It's a breakout. But it's up to you, man. Will save a lot of soldering? Yeah, there's not a lot of soldering here, man. This is very simple, but very good parts. So, south to finish line 2. Any other projects on the brain? Yeah. I'm there with you, man. I am there with you. I hit a ton of projects myself, and I had to cut back and, not do all this stuff. I've been spending a while just trying to get my head around all this stuff, perfecting everything. I make test print after test print after test print to make sure it comes out right. And, you know what I mean? You do what you got to do. So just so you guys know, the circuit comes in black. If you want it in a different color, man, just let me know. If it's a regular color I have, not a problem. You know what I mean? I'll just switch it for you. Custom color, I might have to charge a little bit more just so I can get the color. And then that's it, man. Those things rock. So, and they run all coils, by the way. Let me just tell you that. If you already have a Tesla coil at home and you just need the circuit, this has got it for you. It's a done deal. So, anyway, man, I just think it's awesome. I'll stop talking about my stuff, man. Yeah, walk around with your phone charged. Actually, it steals energy. Funny thing is, man, I've had it take my battery out quick on a lot of this stuff. Dude, you can't walk in the room when some of this stuff is going on. Like, I have my power source right there. Do you know how RF hot that thing is? I mean, you touch it, you burn your finger on the aluminum. You're going to need to change the plastic knob on some of this stuff. Yeah. I was talking to Joe. He says, just do a 9-volt one. And I go, why? Let's just rock it out the right way. No sense in building something small and dinky. It's not going to do more than light a couple light bulbs. I mean, might as well be lighting your farts at that point. We're not getting anywhere. Why not build something that's quality that lasts a long time? And he agreed. And that's the way the route I took with it. So, yeah, that's really cool, man. Yeah, some of this stuff, dude, on my ZVS with that coil, I could set it out of resonance and walk by and have the light turn on. and just because of my body, it'll have enough capacitance to turn it on. So there's a lot of neat tricks to this stuff if you know how to set these things. One thing I would like to do is that cat bank for people. I'm going to have to get with Ian on that and work on that. But I think we can get that cat bank, maybe a small version, then the larger version. But man, does it ever help if you get to a ZVS. And don't get me wrong, there's a way to tune it without an oscilloscope, but you really need an oscilloscope to do that one. That's why I didn't put it on this, because it's way too much money when you get up there. It's not for, tinker toys. You got to really put some money in, because you're looking at, Variac is $130. You got all your ZVS parts, so there's $100 right there. You get an oscilloscope, $250. Then you got to buy the coil. It gets expensive. It's fun if you have most of the stuff and you can just pop it over, but you got to start somewhere. So that cat bank, by the way. Okay, you mentioned Don Smith. The coils I'm working on are short, medium, and large, right? The funny thing is, man, is I can get those things to pull out monster amperage fields because they resonate with one another and they go from big to small. The amount of amperage it comes out of is a monster. It's not even right. I don't even know what to tell you about it. It just, that cat bank fills up so fast, especially since I got the better Schottky diodes in there. Now it's game over, man. That thing is fast. So really cool, man. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for watching today and hanging out with me, man. It's almost been 3 hours. So I thank Liz, thank Joe. Both are awesome, man. Let's see. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. To each their own. I hope everybody does well with it. If I could teach you resonance, I will. And if that changes your mind on how the one wire energy works, man, then it's the right thing to do. So with that said, man, thank you very much and have a great night, man. And like I said, if you guys can help Joe go mining one more time, man, that'd be awesome. All right, guys. Talk to you later.
The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man Bill. The old man builds. The old man builds is broken in the head. People not seeing reality has put them in the red. Where conscious and spirituality been stricken from the norm and replaced with the ignorance of basic magnetic form. The geometry of God keeps running through his head. That's what makes old man builds broken in the head. The old man builds. The old man builds. Spheres of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. The old man builds. Fears of destiny are spinning in his mind, making him travel back and forth in time, battling the establishment for just a little recognition. Has him forcing the world to understand his premonition. That world will have all the technology in the end, even if it means his life will fail to extend. The old man builds.